Hi, I'm Carrie Coos, Senior Product Marketing Manager at Stack Overflow, here with my colleague Colby Smythe, a Product Manager here at Stack. We both work on Stack Overflow's B2B SaaS product, Stack Overflow for Teams. And today we are going to talk about how we're helping customers understand how knowledge flows across their organizations.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And thanks for the introduction. Yeah, as a product manager for teams, it all starts with the customer, talking with them directly to understand their needs, their goals for leveraging teams as their knowledge-based tool. And then distilling that understanding into a strategy with product initiatives that aim to solve real customer problems. And then to bridge that to my team, the community growth team at Teams. At a high level, we're really just focusing on empowering individuals and communities to achieve their full potential in teams. So at macro viewpoint, that's helping communities monitor their health and engagement to grow where we want to grow and drive engagement and just look at those opportunities for growth. And at a micro level, we're really focused on the user journey in Teams, from a new user signing on from the first time to using Teams over months and years, becoming a SME, becoming a moderator, and really just driving knowledge reuse in the organization.
That's great. And as I understand, one way you're helping customers grow collaboration within their own organizations is with a new feature for our Stack Overflow for Teams enterprise plan in the dashboard. This is a feature called connectivity.
Yeah, connectivity, as you mentioned, is a new enterprise feature for Teams that we're really excited about. And it gives our customers visibility into cross-functional collaboration that's happening within their organizations. And we deliver this through a new and dynamic data visualization where we can actually measure, track, and present connections at your organization. So what is a connection, you might say? Well, a connection is a knowledge exchange between departments or different job titles. So for example, myself in product, I can ask a question in Teams. And Carrie, you from marketing can answer a question from Teams. A connection is then created, and that flow of knowledge is presented through connectivity.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, it's a good question. So at Stack Overflow for Teams, we often talk about the value of breaking down knowledge silos, how our product and our feature set can be leveraged to create a more resilient and connected community for our customers. And we know this is on top of mind of our leaders, to technologists that we talk to at enterprise organizations. When organizations face friction, knowledge silos, resiliency suffers, velocity decreases, and oftentimes we only have anecdotal evidence on the what and the why behind the problem. So from that high level problem statement, we begin to ask ourselves, how might we measure and track these cross-organization interactions? How might we make connections a primary KPI that should move up to the right over time? And furthermore, what kind of specific ingredients or behaviors do we see in highly connected and resilient communities? And how can we scale that? And how can we empower other organizations to take upon those? Answering those fundamental prompts led us to the feature product we're discussing today, which is connectivity.
That's really cool. And it makes me just think about some of the stats from our developer survey that we do at Stack Overflow every year. And last year in the 2022 survey, we found that nearly 70% of developers say they encounter a knowledge silo at least once a week, while nearly half say they're finding themselves answering the same question they've already answered before. So if you think about that compounding time and friction of all of those knowledge silos and repeated conversations, that can really add up and cause dates to slip. Not to mention that the experience of frustration, that we all have when we meet that kind of friction, especially when it's repeated on a weekly basis, and most likely daily. So I could see how business and engineering leaders would really want a tool to address those issues. Sounds like connectivity is the first step in understanding how different business units share knowledge and where those knowledge silos could be causing friction in the development and release process.
Yeah, this is what's so powerful about Stack Overflow for Teams, right? I think we're unique in that we really facilitate and drive cross-functional collaboration, right? But we also give those insights and those connections so customers and leaders can do something with that information.
Awesome. Yeah, well, you've certainly piqued my interest, so I would love to actually jump into the dashboard and take a test drive. What do you say?
Sounds great. Let's do it. So this is the new connectivity dashboard in Stack Overflow for Teams Enterprise. And the first thing that jumps off the page is the new connectivity core chart. And the immediate story that it tells us is that this organization is actively breaking down the walls of communication between domains. And this is an aha moment for our community managers and our leaders within enterprise organizations. An interactive and quantifiable view into how knowledge is flowing within your organization. To interact with it, it's a simple choose your own adventure where I can hover and highlight, and I can see at a per department basis or per job department basis how knowledge is flowing from that organization. And I can view and get more information, and I can highlight, and I can view on this file next. Next thing I want to bring to attention to is 3 new primary metrics that we're bringing with connectivity: total connections, connections per department, and connection rate. Going back a little bit to the why we built this, we talked about being able to firstly track and monitor this data within organizations instead of having some anecdotal evidence. Well, here it is. Here's our new metrics that we can see and put a numeric value to how connected your organization is and how connected were you previously, and how do we compare and how do we grow. So we're really excited about these 3 metrics, and we could dive into details later, but these are something that we want to really enforce within the organization and see and track within time how your community is doing from a total connections and a connection rate point of view. And lastly, I want to scroll up here to highlight quickly a little bit of the views and controls with connectivity. We're really proud about this in that we didn't just ship a static chart that you can see a day slot. No, we went farther and we went deeper. We added time, we added filters, and we added different views. The first one being departments and job titles. So far, you're seeing just basically a department view where you can see how your departments are interacting. We also want to support job title views. For organizations, it's really important to see maybe how the flow of information is happening between my senior devs and my junior devs, my data analysts or my back-end engineers. Whatever that may be, we can show that connectivity at a job title basis as well. From a filter point of view, it's also very important. Say I'm a department lead, say I'm in product management as I am right now. How is my department connected? What are my metrics that I can focus on at a more kind of granular basis? We're able to support that by filtering by department, where you can see, for me, from product management, how we are doing, how we are growing, and who we are connecting with, right? That information is all right here and accessible. Lastly is the time aspect of this. None of these metrics, none of this data really doesn't mean much without time incorporated into it. So similar like the overview dashboard, we have a time calendar selection control along with a compared tool where I can say, maybe we shipped an initiative in my organization last quarter. Now I want to see how we're doing. How are we comparing from a month by month basis? How are we comparing from last quarter to this quarter from a connections point of view? Now that we're able to track this, view this, and monitor this in connectivity, we can see and surface that insight from customers.
Really fantastic. I love all of the different ways you can look at this data, measure it, and really get a picture of the knowledge flows.
Yeah, absolutely. So total connections, right? You can read here, total number of answers that are submitted by a user in different department, right? So going back to our early definition of what a connection is, someone from product asking a question, someone from another department answering it. That's a connection, that's a value. And so we're collecting that, and all these metrics is important to reference is coming off of this timeline that you're selecting, right? So if I want to see a previous year, previous 4 weeks, these connections and these metrics will update based off of the time that you've selected. And over connections per department, right? The average number of connections per department. If we want to see these ratios and these rates kind of creep, this tells us at a high level, what is our connections per department basis, not just total, but break those out into departments. And same thing with connection rate, right? The percentage of questions that are answered by a user in a different department. We want all these metrics to ideally be up and to the right. And our hypothesis here that we're presenting to our users is that these connections create a more resilient organization. These increase velocity and throughput and lead time. So we know that a lot of our folks, we'd love to see this core chart. It's a powerful data visualization, right? It kind of tells a story really quickly and you can kind of go through in detail. But we know some folks are just linear thinkers and linear ideas. And maybe we just want a table view that represents the same data. So we support a table view here, right? So we can kind of look at a per user's questions, answers. We can sort and we can filter as we want to. But we want to give users that extra layer here, in case their learning mentality is more of a table versus a chart. So we're reflecting the same data as the core chart, but just in a table view. And just to highlight, we have this download CSV right here, which we know users will love and be able to take this data and use it for whatever use cases they have inside or outside the product, right? We know that that's a very popular thing to do. And so we want to service this data, and this data is represented in the table. If I go back here real quickly, one to call out here is we have also a toggle here on the top departments versus all departments. So if I want to see a full picture, right, I want to see the whole holistic view of what my organization is, I can toggle to all departments. And I can see all of my departments and how they're interacting, right? So we can kind of go all the way granular if we want to. Or, if we have some organizations where we have a lot of departments, maybe we just want to see a sample size of it in our top departments. So we can toggle that view as well that we built into the connectivity core chart. A couple of things we've heard from customers when we're doing our research and our iterations through the process is this is a really great way to identify knowledge bottlenecks, right? Where the unbalanced distribution of knowledge between departments. Are one department answering a lot of questions? Are some having low inactivity, right? Are we putting the burden on one particular department and some of these others have room for growth? So that kind of knowledge bottleneck that happens within organizations that create friction, that reduce velocity. That's one big characteristic here that we really want to keep and go through. And also growth. A lot of our customers, they'll start with a couple departments. They'll start with a few teams, and then they'll grow into it, right? And we expand the use cases, and we'll bring in other teams. So if I'm a community manager or a leader, how is that onboarding going? How is the visibility of new folks and new users coming on and their adoption and their growth within the platform? Now we'll be able to track that and monitor it. So it can kind of give those department leads and those business leaders a good lens to kind of see, okay, a new department has just joined on board. How are they interacting? Who are they interacting with? And some of those actionable insights that you can kind of just view by seeing your data and your knowledge flow holistically.
Thinking through what you're saying here, I have to imagine to be able to identify this type of cross-functional collaboration has to be some really prized information, especially since it's not readily available in most products in the market today, like we talked about earlier.
Through our existing SAML offering, our single sign-on offering, we've added just a couple of new fields where admins can go in and configure through their IDP what their departments are and pass those information along, what their job titles are for their users, and they can pass that information along. And so the beautiful thing about that is when users log in through their normal single sign-on process, that data is right there, right? There's no additional work. The backfill is up to a year of their data information. And so right there, that time to value is increased. And so once they have those fields enabled through SAML, once their users log in, they can just go ahead and start realizing the value of connectivity. Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you asked. So something we're really proud of, because we talked about this, right? Users aren't all logging in at the same time. We're going to have a lag value here, right? So as admin, I set up my SAML fields. I have my users coming in, that data is populating. But, what if I want that value right now? What if I don't want to wait for all my users to log in to populate that data? So what we did is we built a backend tool. So in our admin, our admins can go ahead and just take a download CSV from their internal tools that basically just map in user email, job title, and department in a CSV, upload that CSV, and we're going to map all of those job departments and departments for all their users on their behalf. And then once they log in, the single sign-on will happen, and continually work and update. But it's a really powerful tool for enterprise levels at scale to say, hey, we want to see this core chart today.
Yeah, that's great. I love the options. And really, I think what something I see in the value of that is you're not only giving customers visibility into the flow of knowledge and their organizations through the connectivity dashboard specifically, but you're also adding great info to the user profile. So users can see where their colleagues are working, and what they do. I know I'm not alone in having the experience of working in a company. They can be large enterprise corporations, or it doesn't take even 100 employees in a company, where you start to lose track of who does what and where. And so even just something so simple as being able to have that uniform, consistent company data around a department and job title, that really goes a long way. And so, kind of thinking about this company size.
No, we won't go as far to say there's a certain user size or a certain department size that this makes sense for. I think for all of our enterprise customers, they will find value in this feature. I think if you have limited departments and maybe you're just starting your journey, toggle that job title view. You can see all your job titles and how they're connected that way while you still onboard on new departments. Even if you're just starting in your journey, right? Even if you're a new customer and you're just, you're seeing those questions ramp up and you're seeing all this engagement, that's a great time to turn this on, because you know what? The earlier we start tracking that data, the better and better that story is as we grow into teams. And years from now, we can kind of see how this growth happens.
Yeah, that's great. And it sounds like what I'm hearing from you and seeing in this feature that you have here, like there is an advantage to having a variety in the departments and job titles within your team's environment, just to get more diverse knowledge and expertise into the platform, kind of create more opportunities. And I think you even mentioned earlier that this is an opportunity to sort of make a case for other departments, business units to start to join Stack Overflow for teams, because you can start to identify that opportunity for that knowledge sharing to happen and really increase your connection rate, for more collaboration across the organization.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I think that's well said. It's one thing to know, you're right, we've onboarded a department, we know we see some questions going up, but it's a whole nother thing to be able to see, okay, how this is actually working. We are actually, by looking at this data visualization, by looking at this page, we are doing what we want to do. We are knocking down information silos, we're growing, but there's always room to grow off of that, right? As we talked about earlier, onboarding new departments, this is going to be huge. I can see who they're interacting with to begin with. I can identify if there's bottlenecks that we need to allocate more resources to, more seats. All these kind of questions that right now we can kind of look at, we can think about, we can give reports, but it's something about, say, in the product itself, I can see that data because it's right there, it's real time, it's close to where all the questions and the posts are. And so we're really trying to empower our community managers and our leaders to be able to make that case, right? To be, okay, this is our proof of concept, this is where we're doing. Let's get more departments on here because we know this is doing what we want it to do.
Yeah, definitely. Well, this is all really exciting work that you and your team have been doing.
We're really just following the users of value here. So it's going to be paramount for us to get that feedback early and often. When folks use this, turn it on. What are those features that they really like off of it? What kind of actionable insights are really interesting to them? How do I positively impact my organization by looking at this? The other areas that we kind of are looking on is, as I said earlier, actionable insights. We want to make this a more, actionable area where if I'm a community manager and I see an insight here, how do I act on it? If I see a new team has a bottleneck and I identify it, what's my actions, right? So we really want to support the community managers and our users, department leads, and business leaders. When you find an insight, what's the action that we can do off of that? So those kind of areas, the guidance, the action layer, and bringing all that story all together between tracking, monitoring, visualizations. Now we got insights. Now we need to do actions. That's where our headspace is right now.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear. And truly, I look forward to working with you and the team on all of that as we continue to deliver that value to our customers and really help them, understand how to take those insights even further within their organizations. So I think that's it. Colby, thank you so much for chatting with me today and helping me and all of those watching learn more about understanding the value in cross-functional connections and how to turn that knowledge into action.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks, Carrie.